Pay attention, viewers. Don't be ashamed to answer this. Which one of the three are you? You can't be all three, only one.
Difference between a normal person, an NPC, and a clone. ChatGPT said, "Great question. These three terms sound similar, but actually refer to very different concepts, depending on whether you mean them literally, psychologically, or culturally, like in memes and online discussions. Let's break them down clearly. Normal person definition. A normal person, in everyday use, just means an ordinary human being with free will, independent thoughts, emotions, and a unique personality. Traits. Thinks critically and makes independent decisions. Has emotions, opinions, and personal goals, can change beliefs over time. Engages in self-reflection. Why do I think this way? Conscious of themselves and others. Example, someone who forms their own opinions about life, questions things, and feels deeply, whether or not society calls them normal. NPC, non-player character. Definition. Originally a video game term, an NPC is a computer-controlled character with limited programmed responses. In online slang, NPC has come to describe real people who act predictably, never question anything, and seem to follow scripts. Traits, in meme, cultural use. Repeats mainstream opinions or trends without questioning. Avoids deep thought or individuality. Often lacks emotional depth or self-awareness, conforms automatically to societal programming. Example, someone who just repeats whatever's trending or politically correct, never examines why they believe it, as if they're running on autopilot. Clone definition. A clone literally means a genetic copy of another organism, identical DNA. In pop culture or conspiracy talk, clones can mean copies of people, biological or synthetic, often said to lack a soul or individuality. Traits, fictional or speculative sense, physically identical to another person, may or may not have the same memories, depending on the story. Sometimes emotionless, robotic, or off, in sci-fi, used as replacements, soldiers, or experiments. Example, in Star Wars, the clone army, genetically identical soldiers bred for obedience. In summary, type description. Key traits. Normal person, independent human being, free will, emotions, critical thinking. NPC, scripted person who follows external programming. Repeats ideas, no deep thought. Easily influenced clone biological or synthetic copy of another being physically identical, possibly lacking individuality. Would you like me to explain the psychological difference too, like how an NPC mindset develops versus how a clone or independent thinker perceives reality? You said, yes, please do the psychological difference between all three if possible. ChatGPT said, excellent. Let's go deeper into the psychological layers behind each. The mindset, self-awareness, and behavioral motivation that separate a normal person, an NPC, and a clone, in both symbolic and hypothetical psychological terms. 1. Normal person, the self-aware thinker. Psychological core. A normal person possesses a developed ego and conscious self-awareness, the ability to observe their own thoughts, question them, and change them when needed. Inner experience. Has an inner voice that questions motives. Why did I do that? Can tolerate uncertainty and differing perspectives, builds identity from personal experience rather than external approval, experiences a full emotional range, joy, fear, doubt, curiosity, etc., engages in self-authorship, writing their own life story through choices, cognitive process, reflective thinking, introspection, moral evaluation, adaptation. Psychological parallel. Carl Jung's concept of individuation. The process of becoming one's true self by integrating all aspects of the psyche, shadow, ego, persona, etc. 2. NPC, the scripted mind, psychological core. The NPC mindset lacks metacognition, the ability to think about one's own thoughts. This person functions mostly from external programming, culture, media, institutions, or groupthink. Inner experience, feels safe only when conforming. experiences discomfort when faced with unfamiliar ideas, cognitive dissonance, uses borrowed language, opinions that come from authority figures or social trends, avoids introspection because it threatens their sense of order, reacts rather than reflects, operating from habit, not awareness. Cognitive process, stimulus, automatic reaction, no reflective step. Psychological parallel. Social psychology calls this normative conformity, aligning with others to avoid conflict or alienation. Jung might call this living through the persona, a mask designed to please society rather than express the true self. 3. Clone, the replicated self, symbolic and hypothetical, psychological core. A clone may represent someone whose identity is artificially imposed or duplicated, either through conditioning or literal replication. Psychologically, this symbolizes the loss of the authentic I. Inner experience lacks a stable sense of individuality. Who am I beyond the template? May mimic emotions or thoughts rather than feel them genuinely. Confusion between self and source. They think they're independent, but are actually shaped entirely by external design. Often experiences existential emptiness or detachment, a feeling of being programmed. When self-awareness emerges, it may lead to identity crisis or rebellion, seen in many sci-fi stories. Cognitive process, replication, mimicry, potential awakening, if awareness develops. Psychological parallel. Philosopher Jean Baudrillard's concept of simulacra. Copies without an original, a reality made of reproductions. In existential psychology, it parallels depersonalization, when the self feels unreal or detached. 4. How they differ psychologically. Trait, normal person. NPC, clone, source of thought, internal reflection. External influence, imposed design or template. Self-awareness high, conscious ego and inner dialogue. Low, automatic responses. Variable, may awaken or remain passive emotional range. Full and authentic. Shallow, reaction-based, imitative or numb motivation. Self-determined goals, social validation, programmed purpose, response to change. Adaptable, curious, resistant, defensive. Either resists or collapses under change. Symbolic archetype, the seeker, individual, the herd, automaton, the construct, replica, simplified analogy, normal person, the player of their own life, aware, adaptable, self-created. NPC, the background character following a pre-written script, unaware of the larger game. Clone, the copy of the player, looks real but struggles with the idea of true identity.
I know which one I am. I choose something different every day. Which one are you?
Stay tuned for more. No, but seriously, Dad, which one are you? Comment below, and I will respond.